we look at David and his monarchy, let's take a look at Mosaic covenant. Moses' covenant begins at Sinai. In some ways, the Mosaic covenant ends in 586 BC, when Israel is stripped of its nationhood and its land grant. But God enables them to return from exile and reestablish a community in and around Jerusalem, which continues to practice temple worship and some forms of the pre-exilic Mosaic community. Although Israel would never be a truly sovereign state again, this community continues to exist and expand during the intertestamental period until it is dismantled by the Roman Empire in the 1st and 2nd century AD. So in many ways, the Mosaic covenant continues to function into Jesus' day, but not in true theocratic form. When Jesus comes and seals the new covenant with his own oath and blood, this is a clear and decisive ending point for the Old Testament. So the Mosaic covenant serves as the umbrella which encompasses Israel's experience from Sinai to Jesus. But this Mosaic larger covenantal administration has a sub-covenant, which is David's royal grant. David's covenant does not change the identity of the people, place, or divine presence of the Mosaic covenant, but it adds a new dimension, that is, a royal human representative who stands between Yahweh and his people. A royal grant is a covenant gift awarded to a servant who had distinguished himself by means of faithful service. Usually, these gifts are permanent office or land grants. Abraham's gift is land, but David's gift is permanent office, that is dynasty. As mentioned in 2 Samuel chapter 7, Yahweh promises that there would always be a son of David on Israel's throne. Now let's take a look at the emergence of the monarchy. In Mosaic covenant, God pronounces that he intends Israel to have a king someday. He also specifies what the characteristic of a good king would be like. First, someone chosen by Yahweh. Second, a native Israelite. Third, one who doesn't spend his ambition multiplying horses, wives, or money. Fourth, one who will write for himself a copy of this law on a scroll in the presence of the Levitical priest and read it every day of his life. When Samuel's career draws to a close, the elders of Israel approach him asking for a king. But we get a very different picture of the monarchy here. Yahweh actually states that by choosing a king, the people have rejected him from being king over them. He warns them of the consequences of their choice and seemingly reluctantly concedes to appoint a king. But haven't we just read in Deuteronomy that a king was part of Yahweh's plan? Well, the key to this apparent contradiction is found in asking why the people of Israel want a king. 1 Samuel chapter 8 verses 19 to 21 tells us that the people want a king so that we also may be like all the nations, that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. A king had always been a part of God's plan, but Israel's request for a king was inspired for all the wrong reasons. They failed to see that the solution to the foreign oppression is their covenant faithfulness, but not having a king to fight for them. Now let's take a look at the Davidic covenant in 2 Samuel chapter 7. David first rules over the southern region at Hebron, and then over all Israel. His first royal act is to establish Jerusalem as Israel's national capital. Then his second royal act is to transport the tabernacle, the throne room of the true king of Israel, into Jerusalem. He drives back the Philistines and subdues the Moabites, Ammonites, and Edomites. David is the one who finally brings the national boundaries promised to Abraham. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, when Yahweh had given David rest on every side from all of his enemies, David inquires of the Lord as to whether or not he may build a temple, a permanent house of worship for Yahweh's honor in Jerusalem. Whereas David asked if he could build a house, that is temple, for Yahweh. And Yahweh says no. Yahweh goes on to say that he will build a house, that is dynasty, for David. God promises David, your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established forever. This is David's covenant of grant. 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 14 is critical to the theology of Israel's theocratic covenant. Yahweh says, I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of man and the strokes of the sons of men. Yahweh's response to covenant disloyalty remains unchanged. When David's descendants fail to rule according to the commands of Deuteronomy 17, they will be disciplined by means of foreign oppression. The solution to Israel's ongoing foreign oppression is still loyalty to Yahweh's covenant. Then what is the relationship between the Davidic covenant and the New Covenant? According to 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14 to 11:8, Solomon breaks all the rules laid out in Deuteronomy 17. He greatly multiplies his silver and gold, foreign wives, horses, and chariots. As a result, Yahweh tears his kingdom from him. After Solomon's death, the kingdom is divided into Judah, that is southern kingdom, and Israel, that is northern kingdom. Since all the kings follow the sin of Jeroboam of blending Yahwism and Baalism, the northern kingdom is subjected to the covenant curse and is destroyed by Assyria in 722 BC. In the south, the Davidic dynasty endures longer, but the covenant unfaithfulness finally leads to the fall of Judah to the Babylonian Empire in 586 BC. Not only does the Davidic covenant carry us through the monarchic period of Israel's history, it also sets us up for Messiah, that is, a king born of David's line, a just and righteous leader, through whom his broken people regain their lost inheritance and find peace in him.